This episode is brought to you by Geno's East of Chicago in Los Angeles. Founded in Chicago in 1966, now over 5 years in Los Angeles, in Sherman Oaks, they use the same recipes and ingredients they do in Chicago. It's like taking a trip to the Windy City without the cold weather. Get the authentic Chicago deep dish and thin crust tavern style pizza, or the great Italian beef and Italian beef Italian sausage combo sandwiches. Plus, there's 12 screens showing Chicago and LA sports. Have a genuine Chicago dog with all the toppings as you watch the Cubs, Sox, Dodgers, and Angels. No ketchup. Now available year-round. Check out the menu at genoseast.com. Lunch specials Monday through Friday until 2 p.m. Happy hour features selected wines and beers for $5 and $6 for food. Monday through Thursday, 3 to 6 p.m. Geno's East. Great food, great atmosphere, and great people. Sit back and relax. It's time for peanuts, popcorn, and Cracker Jacks. Hey, how's it going? I'm your host, Jeff Santo, and I'm here with my wife, Christie.
Hello, hello. So we're back for another season.
Third season.
Mm-hmm. And just to remind our long-term listeners and inform our new ones, Jeff wrote and directed several independent films, including This Old Cub, the acclaimed documentary on his father, Hall of Fame baseball player, Ron Santo. And I work behind the scenes, writing, producing with him at our company, Santo Films.
Yeah.
And I'm about to direct my first feature. So we live together, we work together, and contrary to what our listeners may think, we rarely argue.
Very true. We wrote a book together, too. We're on the same frequency. We're creatives, and you have to work together. That's our life, you know?
Mm-hmm. And it works well for us.
Yeah.
You know, I can see where other couples, that might be too much activity together. And for us,
you see a lot of couples in the
it.
creative world working together because you get two sides, and that's the beautiful thing about it. You know, you brought another side to me that I never had, and it opened up a lot of things for me to see in character development, and so many things that if it's one-sided, you know, the male side, you can dominate a little too much, you know, and I just thank you for that. It feels good to have that other side.
And you've lifted me up as well. I mean, in so many ways, it's endless to talk about, and I'm grateful to be your wife.
Oh, beautiful.
That's the positive side.
Right back at you.
However, though, when we do argue, it is about small things like like where you put the recycling, little stuff.
All right.
But wouldn't it be nice to have an ump challenge? Let's talk about that.
Ump challenge. Well, you know, I like what they're doing. It's a test, right? It's not happening this season.
And we're talking about the new ABS challenge they're testing out right now in spring training.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, and I think we need that. Everyone knows the strike zone. We've seen it for years now. So when they get it wrong, it's hard to watch the game. And you know, you got two challenges. I think it works great. And if you win your challenge, you continue on. I love it.
Great.
Yeah. So let's go for it. They should put it in this year. Why wait?
I know, right? Let's do it next year.
Yeah. Totally. And I got to say, I just came back, well, not a month ago, I went to the Northside Fantasy Baseball Camp, the Cubs Fantasy Baseball Camp. My brother and I went out there, honor our father and be part of it. It's a beautiful thing because you get out there, you know, you're like, okay, am I going to go and try and play ball again at my age? And I got to tell you, when you're there, it's almost like you're brought back to a time for me and my brother. I mean, we roomed together. So it's like, you know, it reminds me when we roomed together when I was 8 years old, you know, had the same bedroom with all the same sheets, the football helmets and all that kind of stuff. So it's cool. And I got to say, my brother, he doesn't snore. That's great. Neither do I. So we have similar sleeping habits. He liked when I put on my fireplace on the phone. He's like,
oh, the sound effects to sleep.
Yeah. He doesn't want any news at night, which is great. I kind of like to tap in and see what's going on. But he's like, no news. You're right. Let's keep it all.
No ancient aliens like your wife?
No ancient aliens to fall asleep. It was really just kind of like, okay, turn off the TV and let the fire, you know, the
fireplace crinkles,
you know, put you out. So it worked. But I got to tell you, it was so cool getting back there because it's like when we watched Rocky, at least I did growing up, right? It felt like, you know, when I watched Rocky again the other day, and it takes you back to that time when you could smell the time, you can visualize the time and rooting for the underdog. And it's just those feelings, like you get that going back to the fantasy camp. You know, there were new players there. Sean Dunston, Mickey Morandini, Turk Wendell, Miguel Montero, Ron Say, then the Bobby Daenerys, Jody Davis, and Fergie. You had literally 70 years of Cubs players at this camp.
Cool.
That is so cool. And to get their perspectives, to understand like a Sean Dunston, like I never met Sean Dunston, and to meet him, and you kind of have this feeling like, oh, maybe he was kind of kept to himself. This guy is a beautiful human being. His wife, you could see their relationship. It's just like, and he's funny. The stories they told, and Mickey Morandini and his wife, they went to Indiana University together. It's just, you see these beautiful stories. You're like, God, all right. You get to know them on a deeper level, and the campers that are there, same thing, man. You start to meet campers that might have went to the opposing high school that you went to, and it's just a beautiful thing because it's all about baseball.
It is. It's a beautiful thing, and then you come home injured.
Oh my God, I know. I'm still injured. I'm going to the doctors today to feel if I have if my Achilles is.
He's getting an MRI,
torn.
folks.
I am. But you know what? I got to tell you, we won the championship game, and my team, Mickey Morandini's team, Sean Dunston and Turk, we beat Ronnie's team and Joey Banks' team, which is beautiful, right? And I got to say, I had a double to clear the bases in I think the first inning, and after that, that's when the injury came. I said I only got 6 innings left. I'm going to come out of this with maybe a meniscus and a couple of arm problems, but no. A wild throw to first. I kind of went for it, being a fool.
You kind of went for it? Let's just say
there was a sniper in the stands, and he shot me.
Yeah, right.
Seriously. boom. He had a scope on my Achilles.
No, you have a passion in you that you go for it 1,000%, and your body was saying, no.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I told myself, just go there when you hit, just be like you're in the batting cage. Don't run. Wait to see the ball land and then jog. No, after the third bat, I hurt my meniscus.
Jog.
And then
I've never seen you jog except in baseball. Those are the things that you should have been.
In baseball? What do you mean?
Yeah. The only time I've seen you jog is in baseball. You should have been practicing that before you went.
Yeah, well, I was playing baseball. That was my point. I'm not jogging.
Yeah, but you should have been practicing jogging before going.
Oh, jogging, like actually, yeah.
You were doing the batting cages. You're right, doing all that stuff.
I was doing Pilates or whatever you do every morning.
That's not jogging.
I felt really strong. And yeah, that didn't work.
By the way, I highly recommend Pilates.
Okay. Well, the camp was beautiful, and I got to say, Carl Marquardt and Tony Cahn did a great job, and honoring Randy Huntley too, and just keeping the tradition going. And they're going to be back next year in Tucson. I highly recommend it. This is a cool camp, man. We had a ball. So I'll be back there next year. I don't think I'm playing because I think I'm retired now.
And we have a great show today.
We do. We have Ron Coomer, who was at the camp. I love this man. You know Ron, he's in the booth with Pat Hughes, been in there for, since 2014, took the place of my dad, and my dad would be so proud of what this man represents. Can't wait for you to hear the interview with him. And then I'm going to have a crackerjack call with Tony Cahn, who ran the camp, and see how that goes.
And for those of you that don't know, or new listeners, the crackerjack segment is a call that Jeff does at the end where he surprises somebody. So this is going to be from that recording.
So anyway, it's going to be a great show. Enjoy.
Hans Christian Andersen said, "Where words fail, music speaks." At Joey's Song, we believe truer words were never spoken. Our mission at Joey's Song is to raise money to fund the desperately needed research to find treatments and cures for the devastating and intractable epilepsies that are robbing futures and taking lives. Between 50 and 65 million people worldwide have epilepsy, and 1/3 of those folks, approximately 20 million, cannot find relief from their seizures through any known treatments or surgery. Joey's Song is dedicated to and in the memory of Joey Gamal, who died in 2010, just shy of his 5th birthday after battling a rare form of epilepsy his entire life. Every year, Joey's Song brings together Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, Grammy and Emmy winners, and top 40 hitmakers for a series of one-of-a-kind concerts that have helped us be a part of over $1.75 million raised over the last decade. Artists from bands like Cheap Trick, The Bangles, The Go-Go's, Garbage, The Goo Goo Dolls, Toto, and countless others all help us give hope to the families fighting epilepsy today. To find out more about Joey's Song and stay up to date on our next one-of-a-kind show, visit joeysong.org and join our mailing list, or follow us on the social media channels of your choice. Thanks for your time, and thanks for supporting Joey's Song, and thanks for listening to Peanuts, Popcorn, and Cracker Jacks.
My special guest is a baseball lifer and one of the great ambassadors in the game today. His journey to the big leagues was a pursuit of the will. His call up to the bigs was almost a decade-long wait. Can't wait to talk to him about that. He became an all-star in 1999 and came back home to Chicago in 2001 to play on the North Side. He's now a beloved Cubs broadcaster in the radio booth with Pat Hughes, who was my father's partner for 14 years. He broadcast the 2016 Cubs World Series miracle. Can't wait to talk to him about that too. And he's got a popular sports bar out in the south side suburbs of Chicago called Coombs Corner. I got to get there sometime. Ron Coomer, it's so cool to have you on the podcast. Been wanting to do this for a while.
Yeah, it's great. We've been friends a long time, hung out many times together. So, it's really nice for you to invite me. We do have a lot of things in common. We've been friends. Your pops and I have a lot in common. We're the dual Rons. He did it a lot longer than I did at third base for the Cubs. We were both Rons at third base. We're both Rons in the booth. We both have Pat stories with Pat Hughes. But, your pops, first and foremost, was a buddy. He initiated me into Cubs baseball with the very first dinner before opening day my year I came to Chicago. And as you know, his dinners were legendary. And it was a 3 or 4 hour dinner of baseball laughs, a little vino, and life was good. And that was my first baseball dinner as a Cub. And, between him and Chip Carey and some of the other guys, how could you go wrong?
Yeah, man, you guys are so similar, man. You guys, you're both blue collar guys and tough guys too. Because I remember, watching you in Minnesota. I think you came to Chicago for like an interleague game in 97 or 98. I had tickets right behind like the on-deck circle of the away team. And I saw you walk up, man. I'm like, this guy's no bullshit, And the toughness you had, man, I could see it. Like when you crossed those white lines, my dad would always say this, no one's my friend, right? But yet now, after baseball, after you take off the uniform, you guys are the nicest guys in the world. How is that? Why is that? Those passionate guys that fight on the field, and then when it's over, man, they're the friendliest guys to talk baseball about.
It's a great question. And I don't get asked that question too often either. But there's a thing about competing that I think we all have. Not everybody has, but a lot of people have it, especially if you play. Now, Sloan Park is right on the other side. I'm looking down at the field. So I'm at the ballpark here in Arizona. I think there's something about that. I learned that from my father. My dad was that. My dad was a boxer and a bodybuilder, and he was a tough guy. And when you were playing and competing, the hardest games I ever played to this day were in a park against him when him pitching to me, and he'd drill me as a 10-year-old, and he'd be like, you start crying as a 10-year-old, you'd be like, get back in there. Let's still hit. So from there, that's where that came from. And he was, that was just, it's part of the program, and you were just going to keep going and grinding. And so anything, he always said he wanted to create an environment that was difficult for me to play in with him and competing. So then when I went out on the field, that was the easy part. And so that started at a very young age, but boy, I'll tell you, it stuck with me. And I was fun, loved the smile, BP, ground balls, all the stuff. Great. Boy, game time, different story. We're 25 guys that you got a battle for. And that was part of the program. And where we grew up, on the south side of Chicago, it was a tough neighborhood. And, you had to grind for everything you got.
Yeah. Now, your dad, he was a boxer. Did he play baseball too?
He was a really good athlete. He loved baseball. He should have played football. He would have been the ideal strong safety. But, in that time on the south side of Chicago, there was no money, right? Nobody had any money. So he played sports till he was a sophomore in high school, and that was it. Then he went to work.
Wow.
And that was just the way it was. He worked at a gas station. He worked doing different things, ended up driving a truck, and then got into car business. So he was the ultimate blue-collar guy. But, my grandfather was a factory worker in that southwest side of Chicago. And that's what my dad did. He was, that's what they had to do to make ends meet.
Now, because the way you are, obviously, it comes from parents, you know. So your dad also, he's this boxer and tough guy, blue collar guy, but he's also a friendly guy, right? He treats people with.
Oh yeah,
You don't get
yeah,
that on your own, right?
yeah. No, he was a lot of fun. Sometimes too much fun. No, he's great. He was a lot of fun. He loved to have a good time. He loved going to the ballpark. That's how I got introduced to Wrigley Field, was him taking me as a 4-year-old to Wrigley. And
Wow.
I got to watch your pops and, the famous infield that your dad was a part of, and be, walk into Wrigley for the first time and go, wow, I fell in love with Wrigley Field before you knew anything else. But he loved sports. He was a good athlete, and he knew I had a passion for baseball. And he fed that big time.
Wow.
And that's what we did all the time. Yeah.
Now, being on the south side, you're closer to Joliet is kind of the area that you're around.
I am now, yes. So I grew up 2 blocks from Midway Airport.
Oh,
So
you
I
did?
was literally grew up right in White Sox country, but the Cubs were on TV. You know that. We could
Right.
watch them every day.
Right.
So I ran home from school to catch the last 4 innings of the ball game. That's how I became a Cub fan.
Wow. Was your
Yeah.
dad a Cubs fan, not a Sox fan?
He learned to be a Cub fan because I was a pain in the ass.
Really? So you changed him, huh? Holy
Well, he was
cow.
a Yankee guy. He was a Mantle guy. He loved Mickey
Okay.
Mantle. But, because I was a pain in the butt, him and my grandfather, his dad, they kind of went, okay, I guess we got to go to Wrigley Field because that's where he wants to go. So that's
Wow.
what we did.
Did you
Yeah.
have any siblings?
Younger sister,
Okay.
Gina, still with us. She lives in the southwest suburbs. See her all the time.
Oh,
And
that's great.
she is a big she learned to be a sports fan as she got older. But yeah, great. Yeah, her and I are still really close. And yeah, so she
Oh, that's wonderful.
loves coming to the ballpark and hanging out.
Did you know did you want to be a ball player early on? When did that come to you that, okay, this is where I'm going?
I love being at the ballpark from wiffle ball in the alley to playing in the front, off the steps in those city bungalows. I had a baseball hat on. And my mom always says, I think you were born with a baseball hat on because you always had your hat and your glove and a rubber ball everywhere you went as a little kid. So I really don't know if I was a really good skater, so I could play hockey.
Holy
But
cow.
baseball was the thing. I loved baseball. I was probably built more for hockey, short and squatty and wide and, could probably bang people into the boards. But, it worked out. I loved playing ball. And I still, to this day, there's nothing I think better than coming and hanging out here.
Oh.
We're 4 hours before game time. And, I'm here at Sloan Park. So that's kind of what
No
it
doubt,
is.
man. Now, hockey, that's weird because Chelios was from the south side. He obviously, where do you play hockey on the south? I mean, just frozen ponds and stuff like that?
I grew up, our park district, we had a great guy. His name was Joe Sarna. And it was Wentworth Park and Hale Park were the 2 big parks that we hung out at. And then if you went down Archer Avenue in that area, there was Normandy Park. So we had places, 3 city parks, believe it or not, this usually doesn't happen, where they would all freeze a rink or 2 in the fourplex of baseball diamonds in the winter. My mom would come to school to pick me up, pick my sister up, bring my stick, my skates and gloves, and I would stay there till, 6, quarter to 6. Dinner was at 6 o'clock with pops. So you're taking your skates off and busting it back home to get home for dinner at 6 because you didn't want to be late. That was not going to work out real well.
Wow. So you didn't play football if you're playing hockey, right?
I did play football till I was a sophomore in high school.
Oh,
I was a
wow.
quarterback.
Okay.
Yep, till I was a sophomore. And then the baseball thing just kind of took over. The baseball thing, there was chances to play fall baseball in high school around that southwest suburbs when I moved out that way. And then to me, I was a baseball guy. I wanted to play baseball, and I played in fall leagues. I played, on 3 different teams in the summer. I was just all in on baseball.
And were you third base mostly?
Shortstop till my senior year of high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
And when did
Yep.
you know, okay, I'm going for it now? Because you went out to California, Taft, California.
Yep.
Is it Taft, California?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I had to
right
look
on.
up, which is off the 5, a little elevated, right?
Yeah.
Small
Not the
town?
prettiest part of California you'll ever see either. But it was so back then, as you know, in baseball, you could be drafted every semester out of a junior college back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. So a lot of guys that really wanted that pro route or thought you could, we would go to a JC. And that's what I did. I really wanted to get out of the Chicagoland area, personal reasons, all kinds of stuff. I wanted to go somewhere where I could go and play ball and go to school and start my adult life kind of thing. And just really kind of try to figure out life for what you were going to do. And Taft, I've still got great friends there. I still go there and check them out to this day when we have an off day in LA. I was there 2 years ago to watch them play. Boy, for going to the middle of nowhere in desert country and oil country, 2 years, that couldn't have worked out any better for me than it did being at Taft.
Wow, man, because we grew up in Chicago, and the same thing, I hear you, because it's so hard to play ball in high school in Chicago. Spring, it's so cold. You got maybe 10 games that are decent, right?
Yeah, right, maybe.
So maybe, right? So you wanted to go to warm climate too, which makes sense, because I was looking at junior colleges also. Arizona, you got them, and you got them down south also. And the 2-year thing, I get that. Now, Taft, though, I've never heard of anyone go to Taft College in the middle, literally, because it's by Bakersfield.
Yeah,
but
right.
What got, how did you focus on Taft? Who got you that kind of?
It was really the only place I had to go. I had offers to go around the Midwest, right? And especially in Illinois, because there's a lot of good baseball in Illinois. And, it didn't have to be at the University of Illinois. A lot of good baseball. But for me, I knew I needed to go. I needed to go and create a life for myself and go, you know what? It's time to become an adult. You got to go, and you got to, my parents got divorced, and that wasn't the best situation, like a lot of people, we all know. And for kids that are in sports, and really, you have to make some tough decisions at a very young age. What am I going to do? I've got to create a life for myself. And that was part of it. It's part of growing up. It wasn't the easiest thing, to leave. I didn't have any money going there. I was on scholarship, but that was it. So, it's like, cool, just make it work. That was the deal.
That is, I went to a small Division II my first year in Florida called St. Leo, and not knowing a soul and going someplace is pretty cool. Like, you literally got to find your way in. And you had to be the only guy from Chicago probably there, right?
There were two of us. Another guy from Weber. See, the thing about Taft was they didn't have the population to have to warrant having sports teams, but they had a ton of dough, right? All the oil in the 80s was coming. 5% of our nation's oil was coming out of that area. So they had all kinds of money. So they were recruiting nationally baseball and football. So we had kids from Vegas, kids from Washington. We had a couple kids from the East Coast on baseball, and another guy from Chicago, from Weber High School. Yeah.
Wow. Those schools they have great competition. Even like the Division II I went to. I got there, and I was 17, one of those young guys, still a late birthday. And some of these guys look like they're 24, 25. It's weird. Sometimes even in junior college, you can get those older guys too, right? Absolutely.
We had a guy on our team, 26. Yeah, no doubt. I'm the same as you. I had the late birthday, and here I go out there, and this dude's like, he could have kids, and I'm like, what do we got going on here? But did you miss? Did you take a 5-year hiatus, or what did you do?
Right. Now when you're at Taft, you're there for 2 years, and you're going pro that second year. You're not going to another a 4-year school.
Well, I had a really good freshman year. I was an All-American junior college player. But the week before the draft, I blew out my right knee. I tore my ACL, ruptured the ACL right before the draft. Every team was at the games. There were probably 4 or 5 guys on that field between us and Sacramento City College. If you know they're big baseball JC in California. I ruptured my ACL, did not get drafted then that year, waited a year, but then I played my sophomore year with no ACL and a brace. But I ended up getting drafted in the 14th round, and, it worked out. It's not perfect, but it still worked out. And I knew when I got drafted, I was recruited by the Tennessees and Arizona and a lot of different schools. UC Santa Barbara was a real good program back then. With my knee the way it was, I'm like, take your chance. You got it right now, take your shot. And that's what I did.
Wow, man. Did that knee follow you all the way through your career?
To this day, I've got a new knee replacement now. I've had 13 knee surgeries through the time I was playing professional baseball. And so, you know what? Sometimes things are a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
If you had two good knees, would you have focused on your game as much? Or was the knee issue a reason why you had to focus on the other things to make sure that part of the game was better? I don't know.
Wow,
Worked out.
man. Wow.
Right?
That's something. Now you get drafted, like you were like 14th round or something like that,
Yep.
right? So tell me that, like, you were down there for a while, right? Did you ever have like a moment where like maybe this isn't for me?
Yeah, I did. I had some really good years, my first 3 years when I was healthy, right? First 3 full seasons were good. And then I got advanced to AA, and I was not playing every day. We had a bunch of older guys on this AA team because Oakland was really good, right? That was the Canseco, McGuire, Steinbach, Carney Lansford. And they were just trying to sign a bunch of people to plug in wherever they thought they needed somebody to help the big league club. Well, for the young guys, that didn't help us, right? You're starting to run into these roadblocks. So I didn't play much. I was a platoon guy in AA. They tried to move me to second base. I'm like, do you see this body? I got fullback written all over me, man. I'm not playing second base. And I'm like, if you move me to catcher, I go, okay, I could see that. Second base? Yeah, probably not. But, the next year, so Oakland did me a favor. They were trying to trade me. But at the end of that season, they ended up releasing me. Did me a favor. I knew right away I could go and sign with the White Sox. I had worked out with Carlton Fisk for years and hit with him. And they needed a third baseman in the upper minor leagues. And so it worked out perfect. And I signed days later with Chicago White Sox in minor leagues.
Wow, man. And then where did it come? Where was the moment you're like, okay, now I'm at the next team?
I was playing in Birmingham for Terry Francona, who was the manager, right? Who recently played. Great dude, great hitter. And Mike Barnett was the hitting coach there. And between the two of them, you couldn't have had a better environment for young players to excel. Mike Barnett was an old Yankee guy who was the video guy for Don Mattingly with the Yankee group. And he knew hitting inside and out. And I had learned a lot from Carlton Fisk. And then when I got with Barnett about the little intricacies of him being able to see me every day play, that year I took off and I was on my way to the big leagues. It was just a matter of getting an opportunity then because I took off.
Wow. Now that opportunity came, I think, for you in 1995? When you got
94.
94. Okay, 94.
Yep.
Okay.
Deadline trade. Yep.
So you're there. So you're down in those minors, man. Did you have guys down there as long as you, or?
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
You did.
There were other guys on other teams, when we were in AAA and you see this thing and you just go, wow, you're going deeper into debt, right? Because you're not making any money.
Right.
You're trying to figure it out. There's usually a girl involved and, a wife, and there's that thing going on. And you're like, wow, I got the only shot you got of succeeding. Now you're all in. It's like the poker, right? You pushed all your chips in, bro. And you're like, okay, I've got to hit. This is not like I hope I hit. I've got to hit. I'm 26 years old. I'm going to be 27. And I'm like, it's now or never.
Wow.
And, I got lucky. Not everybody at 27 years old breaks into the big leagues and then stays for the next, almost 10 years.
No.
And I got very fortunate. I got traded from the Dodgers to the Twins, who was they were a rebuilding team after their World Series years. And I had a manager, Tom Kelly, who wanted guys to play hard. He was a Jersey guy, wanted tough guys. And if you played the game the right way and you could hit a little bit, he'd give you a chance.
Where did that happen? Where did you get that chance? Did you know what happened? I know, but when did he see you? Was it spring training?
He never saw me. The guy that was the farm director for the Minnesota Twins, his name's Larry Corrigan, Chicago guy, was the scout that drafted me with Oakland. Now he's the farm director for the Minnesota Twins.
Holy cow.
And he's watched me play in AAA and knows I can hit. Right? He knows I could be a big league player. The Twins were turning things over. I get traded to Minnesota, and he just said, "Here you go. This is your
That's
chance."
unbelievable how that works, right, man?
Yeah.
You know, there's always someone there to help.
Yeah.
Like a little bit of the baseball angel. I mean, my dad had a couple of those, right? One big Rogers Hornsby, right? For him and Billy.
Yeah.
You know, and that's amazing, man. So when you got to the bigs after saying, you know, you did get drafted young though. You're 19, really. So people sometimes today people are getting drafted at 22, 23. So
I was a kid still. Yeah.
You're a kid still, right? So but still it's a long time down there, man. It's a long time.
But you don't know it. Every time you come home, first of all, people think you've made money. I had none. My buddies, working construction around town, they got way more money than I do. Then the teachers and the people in town, how long are you going to give it? You're like,
right.
Well, I don't have plan B, I left school, I don't know what else to do.
You can't have a plan B, right? You can't have a plan B because the mindset is plan B, it's over. It's over, man. And it's like, God, but the pressure to just psychologically, you're dealing with a lot, and you overcame. That's the hurdle that people have to overcome to get to the level that a pursuit like yours.
Well, you saw it. And when you go to the minor leagues and you see, I was I had some skills as a hitter that were above average for sure. But then there were other skills with bad legs that were below average. And you see a lot of guys that are drafted real high that can have all 5 tools and can play. But there comes a time where the competition thing, and you go right back to that 10-year-old kid, who wants it? Who's going to grind every day for 160 games every day and come here ready to play? So in talking to all your dad's buddies that are here, like Fergie's here now, and Rebel, Randy Hundley and all these guys,
right? Yeah,
that big league guys have. Your pops had it, and then some. I was reading your dad's stats before we went on, and I'm like, here's a guy that's had diabetes. Nothing was easy, right? And you look at his numbers and you go, holy cow, year after year after year. You see the at-bats, so that means he's in there every day, grinding, and you just, it's one of them big tip for the hat, man. That's
you got to say it third too, man. Just how many assists and total chances leading the league for all those years, and you're doing it day in and day out with, like you said,
got something right behind you. Look at the Gold Glove right behind you.
Yeah,
right? I mean, that's just the coolest thing ever, right?
Yeah,
I mean, your pops was the guy. I just, you're this little cub. We all saw that, and I could. The dinners with your dad were legendary, and we miss him. And happy birthday to him today.
Oh yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, right on, man. I wanted to call you on that day, man. His day, because you guys are I've gotten to know you, man, and we just spent some time at the Northside Fantasy Baseball Camp, which was a ton of fun. I'm still hurt. I'm just beginning to walk.
I don't know how you guys do it, man. We laugh like Jeff. Don't run at all. Don't move.
Oh, I know, man. I know.
It's just fun, though, right?
It's so much fun.
Hanging out,
So and just everyone gravitating towards you. And after the games that we have, we congregate in the clubhouse and the stories you tell and all the other guys. But man, you just have a way, and it's just so nice to see, because my dad was exactly that same way, where you look at him, you go, no, he's enjoying this. You're enjoying this. And that's what's great about it. Some people can't enjoy that part of their lives, but that's a way of giving back, and you give it back every day, man. I see it. And just talking baseball and hitting with you was beautiful, And I want to get back though to the moment that you got to the bigs. I want to know what that felt like for being there so long. What was it like? Can you tell me?
I can't. I think it was like a full day. I remember I was playing in Tacoma, Washington, and there were probably 700 people at the game. Cold, rainy Tacoma, right? It's the trade deadline. We're August 31st, and it's going into the 1st of August, right? So it's July 31st. I know I've got a really good chance of being traded, that day. The Dodgers are looking for pitching help. And I'm the top hitting prospect, maybe in the minor leagues. I'm hitting 330. I've got, 120 RBIs the year before, 130. I put myself in a good position to be a big leaguer. It just needed the next step to happen. But I get pulled off the on deck circle to the dugout, and our trainer, Stan Johnson, sits me down and he goes, I hope you never play another minor league game again. He goes, you're going to the big leagues, grab your stuff, go to the clubhouse. And he said, you just got traded to the Minnesota Twins. You'll be in Cleveland tomorrow night.
Oh my God.
And I was like, wow, this is, and then Rick Dempsey, another longtime big league guy, was my manager. He didn't even coach third base then. He just comes running into the dugout, gives me a hug, and I'm like, well, there's a game going on out there. You're supposed to be our manager and coach at third. He's like, oh, they'll be all right. And we're hanging out in the dugout. And when I got to the clubhouse, I got cleaned up. I was getting ready to leave, say my goodbye, champagne. It was really cool. And then to tell my parents that and all that, that's the deal. Because they go through that too. You went through it as a son, right? You're immersed in this baseball thing. It just does. And to walk into a big league clubhouse that day, and see your name on a jersey next to a Puckett or some of those guys in Minnesota, you got to pinch yourself and go out. I'm here.
Now when you walk into that clubhouse, Ron, what's your attitude like? Are you all like business? Are you like, okay, just be this? Do you talk to yourself like, okay, I'm going in here with these guys?
Being in the minor leagues long enough, you kind of understand the hierarchy. I've been in big league camp now quite a few years. So you understand, as a young player, even though I wasn't a young kid anymore, as a young guy in the big leagues, you know what you do? You shut up.
Yeah.
Just be quiet, do your job, and that's it. Do your job on the field and be seen and not heard. You don't have that kind of seniority yet. Right. And that's what I did. And Puckett wore me out. I locked her next to Puckett home when we get home off the road, and he would wear me out. And but he loved me to death, because the first day, Puck comes running up to me at third base. He goes, "Hey, welcome, kid," and he knew exactly where I was from and everything. "Where are you from?" I go, "Well, Puck, I'm from the south side of Chicago." He gives me that look like, "No, you're not. I'm from the south side of Chicago." And I go, "Yes, you are." And I just said, "Okay."
Right?
What do you say to that? Nothing.
Oh, God. And he went to a junior college. He went to the one in Chicago.
Right. Yeah,
Triton. Yeah, I went to Hartford for a year. Yeah, Triton.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, did you get in the game that first day?
Yeah, pinch hit. Yep, grounded out to second. Just missed hitting a home run to left. Hooked one, just missed the foul ball. Nervous as hell, back legs shaking as I get in the box. Oh, yeah. All them at bats in the minor leagues, you could have thrown them all out. I was nervous as hell, bro. I was like, God dang, I've never had this feeling in my life. Yeah, that was nervous as hell. Yeah.
When did the first hit come? The next day?
The next day against Mark Clark, base hit in the hole between short and third. Yeah.
Right on, man.
I started the next day. Yeah.
God, I've always thought about, growing up, obviously, in the baseball. That's a dream. You think you're going to do it.
Right.
But you don't have the mentality that you had, my dad had, because we have everything that they didn't have, right? It's just a different psychological. Got that later in my life, but I always thought about, God, what would it be like getting that call up, right? And obviously never happened and didn't even get, I played Division I, but the point I'm making is I got one at bat in the big leagues, but it was a movie at bat, and 8 men out.
That's awesome.
They said you got to hit and do a double play, Jeff. I'm playing for the St. Louis Browns, and it took me like 2 takes. I did it. Okay, I'll hit a shot.
Yeah. I got this.
Way different though, man.
Yeah.
That's why I always ask that moment, because that's a moment like someone, their first movie or what, just, it really is. And it's special.
See, that's that part that you have, and why we have clicked for all these years and been friends. So to have your last name be Santo in professional baseball is like, really? that's not the easiest thing in the world to
No.
have happen. You and your brother and your sister both, all three of you. That thing of wanting to succeed and do something and have that drive is something you guys have. And we've talked about. It didn't have to be baseball. It's
Right.
business. It's this. It's being an actor. It's writing movies and playwrights and being a producer and finding your own path. Because at the end of the day, now I haven't played baseball in a long time, but we grind and we push and we've got that thing in us to succeed and want to succeed. And that's the thing in talking to you where we've hit it off, all the different businesses, all the movies and the things, and watching your clips of your next movie coming out when we were in camp. I'm like, proud of you. I'm like, oh, this is sweet, man. One of my buddies, he's got a movie coming out. I wouldn't know what the hell to do with that. I could hit a baseball. That's what I can do, bro.
Yeah,
Right?
that's the thing, man. It's weird because we were born into it, right? And Ronnie had, my dad made a mistake of giving the same name, He even said, oh, geez, what I do.
Yeah.
Right. But it's tough because you think that's going to be your world, right? You grow up in the
Right.
in the clubhouse and when it isn't, when it ends, you got to find yourself, and that becomes the real journey. And thank you for saying that, because it's still a struggle. It's still a struggle for a lot of people to do anything at those kind of levels, to make a movie. And we're almost there. I did a short for it and we're getting there. Right. And so it's going to happen because I just know it is. You gotta believe, and you got to say, I've been here enough times that now this is the time it's really going to happen the way I want it.
Because it is, right?
Yeah.
Those are things that we say to ourselves. You don't always share them with everybody.
Right.
But boy, know in here, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to work my butt off to make sure that happens.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Yeah. And that's it. And now let's talk about, man, your broadcast career, which is phenomenal. Where did that begin for you?
I'm not real sure. To be honest, I'm not quite sure how that happened. Other than I was probably full of shit talking when I was playing baseball.
Oh, I doubt it.
I was playing for the Twins, and a broadcaster, John Gordon, who was a longtime Twins broadcaster, came up to me about my third or fourth year with the Twins. And he said, Coom, he goes, we've been doing a lot of interviews, you and I together. And he goes, how would you like to do a radio show with me every Friday from the ballpark? And I went, okay. And he goes, we'll call it Coom's Corner. We'll get a sponsor. And I go, really? Every Friday? He goes, yeah, we'll come here a little early and they'll pay a few bucks, but you can kind of see what this part's like. I go, okay, yeah. So we did it for 3 straight years. We did a radio show every Friday when we were home or on the road, and Coom's Corner was the name of it. And I enjoyed doing it. And, I enjoyed not just being the guy that was getting the questions asked about our game. I liked asking John about his broadcasting and getting more of a conversation like you and I are doing than having all the questions come at me. And I thought, wow, this is cool. I like this. And I grew up, I'll tell you, Jeff, I grew up as a Cub fan as a little kid, thinking Jack Brickhouse was it. So I didn't know if I could hit as a young kid, but I sure liked listening to him talk about the Cubs and broadcast. So always in the back of my mind, I'm like, as your pops, we can talk baseball now.
Yeah.
We're going to talk baseball. So maybe there's a chance down the road here to do something like that. But that kind of progressed. I retired from playing in 2003, and I got a call from John McDonough, Cubs old president, and no, out of the blue. I'm driving on Lakeshore Drive. I own a development company in Chicago. We're building buildings in Hyde Park. And he goes, hey, Ron, how you doing? And I'm like, wow, John McDonough's calling me. I'm like, okay. He goes, there's a job opportunity for us with Comcast to do pre- and post-game shows every game. He goes, you interested? I go, yeah, absolutely. He goes, you got to go and interview. I did. I was the worst interview on the planet. I walked out of there. I called him. I didn't even get to my car. I started calling him. I go, John, there's no chance I got this job. He goes, why? I go, I was the worst interview in the world. They asked me questions and I wouldn't agree to what they were saying. I'm like, yeah, no, I wasn't playing ball with them at all. They showed a shot of Nomar running down the first base. He was jogging instead of running. Well, he was hurt. I knew that because we were friends the year before. And I'm like, well, they go, well, you got to be hard on a player. I go, no, my job is to know what's going on with that player. That's why you're hiring. If he's not hustling, that's one thing. But if he's hurt, that's another thing. And then
That's a good answer. I like it.
Yeah, right? That's the truth. The next week he calls me back. He goes, hey, there's another job with Fox. You can do a job. You're going to do the Saturday game of the week, pre-post from Chicago. He goes, this time you don't have to interview. I go, great. He goes, you're in. I go, okay, cool. And then I did that for 3 years. And I interviewed to manage with the Twins and the Yankees. That didn't really, financially, I couldn't do that and go back to A-ball and not make any money and tell my business partner and my wife that, I'm going to go to Tampa or Fort Myers and manage for next to no money. I go, that's not happening. I've been a successful businessman, and I'm like, no. And Fox called in Minnesota, and within 2 weeks of doing a couple of shows, next thing you know, I had 120 shows with Fox TV around Twins baseball or doing games. And
it's great, man.
Here we are 22 years later.
Wow. And now, two reunions. The reunion you came back in 2001 to Chicago was a big one for you. Coming and playing at Wrigley. What was that like?
I just remember walking right here in Arizona. The first guy I met, first day of spring training, Ryan Sandberg. I met Ronald. He said, hey, welcome to Chicago. He goes, I've heard you're from here. You're a Cub fan. I go, yeah. So playing at Wrigley Field every day was just one of them pinch me moments. Hitting some home runs into the bleachers and, hearing the fans go nuts. I just, to me, it was like I was never a guy that showed anybody up with my home runs. But at Wrigley, if I hit a home run at Wrigley, it took me a little longer to get around the bases because I was like trying to just take it all in that, that 30 seconds of going around the base. I'm like, look at this. This is all you've ever wanted to do your whole life, and it's happening right now.
Right.
So that was the cool.
It's happening like literally you as a kid coming home and seeing the Jack Brickhouse. Hey. Yeah. There you are running around the bases later. Come on, man. It doesn't get any better than that.
Doesn't get any better.
We all dreamt about that, and my dad was doing it at the time.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
God damn, man. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And that was a year that Sammy hit like 66 bombs.
60 home runs. Yeah. He was on fire. He was one of the best players you'd ever see. Best hitter. Just the things that he did at the home plate. Wow.
Did people don't really realize he hit like almost 330, hit like 425 total bases? Isn't that like hundreds of all time?
And he had Ron Coomer and Rondell White hit behind him. It wasn't like he had, he had your pops hitting behind him. He had me hit behind him.
Well, but you know what? You didn't strike out much, and you were basically a 300 hitter when you were healthy. Yeah. You were right around there all the time.
Always, yeah.
But you didn't like to walk, did you?
No, I was there to hit. Yeah. When I got in the on-deck circle, I was warming up to hit.
Right. That's awesome, man.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah. God. So now, when you became the broadcaster and coming into Wrigley with Pat, that was 2014. Yeah. And I know that, having the same name as my dad, what was that like for you? Was there pressure? Was it, because I never talked to you about that. And I told you when we met and I wanted you to come on the podcast and you're gracious to say yes, that I want to ask you about that. What do you think? You're like, you better ask me about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was that like for you? And it's now the Pat and Ron show, which is similar, obviously the name, but you guys have a different thing, obviously, and you got your own thing going. So tell me about that.
I don't know if pressure is the right word. I knew your dad, and I knew you guys, and I knew your sister. And I was a huge fan of your dad from his playing days to his broadcast days. And I would be in Minnesota playing and listening to your dad and Pat do games, so I felt like, when I would see your dad as I was playing in the big leagues, right away, boom, we would mash and, hey, Ronnie, how you doing? And it would be a hug. So the pressure of doing it, and I had 10 years already or 11 years of broadcast time under my belt in Minnesota. You know what I really wanted to have happen? I didn't want people to think I was trying to replace Ron Santo. And I told people that, people ask, well, how do you replace Ron Santo? You don't. I go, it's just that simple. I go, Ronnie was a legend here as a player and a broadcaster. I go, I'm going to try to create my own little niche of doing baseball games as Ron Coomer and understanding. And I talked to you about this. I remember we were in fantasy camp when I first took the job. I was just ecstatic to be able to know I was coming back home. But I was like, it's your dad. It's the Pat and Ron show. That was their gig, man. And so I just wanted to do my thing and understand that everywhere I spoke, I always led it with, I'm not here to replace Ron Sandy. If Ronnie was still here, he would be doing Cubs baseball. It's just the way it is. And I'm just honored to be back here. And it's Pat and Ron again. I laughed with Pat Hughes. I go, is that the only name you could remember? You couldn't remember Zonk and Keith, so you had to go to a Ron? Is that what? And but I just, I was ecstatic to be able to come home and to follow, in behind your dad. I loved your dad to death, and so replacing your dad, that wasn't the case. There's no replacing your pops. That's just the way it is.
Right.
And
on,
we still all feel that way. We do.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, man, he wherever he's happy, you're there, man, because you guys are so alike in all the ways we've talked about, and the best way is the character. Your character is, just A+, man, and everything that you represent with the Cubs and baseball and yourself being a Chicagoan, man. And the Coombs Corner, I got to tell you, I looked at your restaurant. I can't wait to go there sometime. The food looks excellent. The environment, that bar looks really cool. How often you get out there?
A lot. I'm there quite a bit. So on the weekends when we're home, I'm usually there Friday or Saturday. We always have live music, which me and one of my partners, that was our thing. We wanted live music.
Right on.
The food, my dad would roll over in his grave if we didn't have something good there for him to eat. Our place is like the Cheers, right, in the Lockport area. That's what I wanted it to be. So you'll see the Little League kids in there with the parents, the high school, every sport in the high school is invited, and their coaches, and we try to do as much as we can with them. But I always look back and go, man, you remember those times when things weren't always great? You can do some cool things in the restaurant business to help people, help the school, help programs, but help kids, and it's a fun place for me to hang out. You know what I mean? My buddies and my high school teammates are all around, and so we created our own Cheers, so it's fun.
That's so cool, man. And to go to a neighborhood where where you're from and the buddies that you grew up with, that's something special, man. That doesn't happen to too many people. You know what I mean? I mean that's a beautiful thing. And now I'm going to get to you on 2016, announcing the World Series. Tell me what you thought, like that you experienced through that was something new to you that you might not have thought would ever happen.
Well, the Cubs tradition had not been good up to that moment. Right. And there were a whole bunch of us that was hoping that we were that team to create that, and it hadn't happened. And going into the 16 season, you look at that club and you go, wow, this is really a good team. They're really good. And you had Joe Madden, who's another guy, friend of yours, who has that charisma. You had a Lester, you had Rizzo. You had a lot of really good things going on there. And they rolled off, I think they won 11 or 12 to start the season, 23-4 or something to end the month. You're like, wow, we're rolling. But to me, I really think when we got to the playoffs and you started, just pounding teams and things were good, I'll never forget us winning to go to the World Series and just feeling that sense of like, I didn't make it as a player. Mm-hmm. I was with the Yankees and we lost in the playoffs in 2002 to Madden's team, who was in Anaheim in Scotia. And I just thought, we're going to the World Series. And I just was like, holy cow. The World Series, to me, every game, we would get there so early, but there was an adrenaline rush, Jeff, that I did. The only time I experienced it was playoff game in New York, and playing in the All-Star game. All of a sudden, you're like, wow, this is different. This is really different than anything else I've experienced. And that's what that was. And I remember going into Game 7. We're getting the countdown, right? We're a countdown of going into the actual game time, and I remember our executive producer, who Mitch Rosen, who's been around Chicago forever, gave Pat and I both a hug, and it's Game 7. And I was like, holy shit, man, this is Game 7. Pat had it written on his scorebook, big as Texas, right? Game 7. And I'm looking at that going, boy, don't screw this up. I'm like, oh my God.
Wow.
I couldn't wait for the first pitch in the baseball game to start so you could be baseball. But we were there 7 hours before the damn game, and you're just like, it's Game 7. It's one of my all-time favorite moments, period, in my life of going into something and thinking this is something that every kid that's played Little League has wanted to be a part of. And there you are. You're able to do this. And to call it for my hometown team, I remember, to bring your pops back into this, I remember talking to Pat about this. And your dad being gone and not being there, Ernie not being there, and Jack Brickhouse not being there. But there's some Cubs, that you just go, Billy was around, so that was great. But I know Pat Hughes had that feeling about your father that is like, that was one of those things that you wanted him around. You wanted him to be there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, special, no doubt about it. And that 10th inning, did you think, uh-oh?
I there were other words going to come out of my mouth than that. I'm just I had to push the microphone up. I literally, Jeff, so Rajay Davis comes to home plate. We got Chapman on the mound throwing 100 miles an hour. I go, okay, the only thing you can't do is throw him a slider down and in. That's the one pitch he's going to be able to hook and do damage and tie the game. If you throw him hard fastballs away or up, he might get a base hit. He might hit a double. He's not tying the game. I said that on the air 2 pitches later. Slider down and in, whack. The only thing that came out of my mouth started with an F, and I hit the microphone. I'm like, oh. And I didn't talk. Nothing. I just sat here, and I'm like, steam just coming out. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, it was unbelievable. That was one of the moments I was just like, oh.
What'd you do in the rain delay? Where'd you go? What'd you do?
We sat right in my chair. I didn't move a muscle. I got another cup of coffee, pissed off, thinking, God. And now the whole thing had switched, right? We had 25,000 Cub fans in Cleveland. And the whole thing flipped over. You could hear, whenever the Cubs hit a bomb or something, the whole place went up for grabs. You're like, there's more Cub fans than Cleveland fans here. And then all of a sudden, the momentum had switched. And then because of the rain, the momentum had switched back maybe a little bit. Some guys pinged the ball around the field. But that was a tense moment when that ball went out of the park and then that rain delay. You didn't hear about what's going on in the clubhouse. But you talk about a switch. The really cool thing about that is after that home run, Chapman stayed in the game and kept the score there.
Yeah.
Talk about a tough thing.
Right.
Chapman's crying in the dugout after that inning, bro. This is one of the hardest nosed dudes in the game.
Right.
And he's feeling it in the dugout. I didn't know that, but you're like, that's how intense this thing is weighing on everybody. It just is.
And then to come back in the 10th and then to win it. Where did you go after that win? Did you go down to the clubhouse? Did you?
Hell yeah. There's champagne to be drank, bro. You know that.
Man,
I wasn't missing out on that. There was no chance of me missing out on that. So we win, right? We win the game. There's 2 things that I'm like, can't do. I don't want to be screaming over Pat's call. Right? Because this has never happened. It's never been recorded. The Cubs won the World Series. I took the microphone and moved it out of my face. The ball gets hit to Bryant, move, microphone out of me. No chance am I going to screw this up. And now I'm watching, and you let Pat do his thing and call the play. I was like, I think I was proud of myself for that, of not being a knucklehead and killing Pat's call. So I did that. That was one. And then we get done, and now, we're all in tears. And My wife makes her way to the booth right after the game. Mitch Rosen hits me in the back and makes me turn around. I look, Paul is crying. Now I'm crying. Pat's crying. Mitch is crying. There's nobody talking on the air because we're all crying in the booth. There's like 15, 20 seconds of nothing. And Mitch is like, someone's got to talk, guys. This is radio. So we're, it's just one of them moments. But when it all gets said and done, right now, Pat wants to stay in the booth and just hang out. And I'm like, no, that's not happening. You're with me. We're going down to the clubhouse. We're drinking champagne. This is the party night.
Got that right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not missing out on that. There's no chance.
Come on, Pat. You're coming down with me.
Hell yeah. You get them old shirts, we're going, bro.
Yeah. Oh, God.
We're soaking that shirt in champagne. So the three of us go down. We take a picture right away. I open the clubhouse door, and Madden's office is right there with the door closed. So, he probably shouldn't have done this, but I open his door, and I look in. There's no one in there. The World Series trophy sitting on his desk. I'm like, come on in here. So we get pictures with the World Series trophy, and they're like, we're not supposed to be in there. I go, really? What are they going to do? We just won the World Series.
Oh, that's great.
And then, so we get pictures with the trophy. Then we go in the clubhouse, and I give Tom Ricketts a big hug. The first guys I see, Tim Buss, our strength coach, who is one of the best dudes in the world. He starts pouring champagne over our heads. I can't see past my nose, and and we're just laughing hysterically, and it just,
my God!
And it was like a 3-day bender. Then it was just like,
how good is that, man?
It was just the whole thing. Getting on the plane after hours of sitting in the clubhouse, the fire department shooting the water cannons over the buses, getting to Wrigley Field, and there are thousands of people there.
Oh man!
It was just that. The parade then 2 days later, I needed by Sunday. I think it started on a Thursday. By Sunday, I told the wife, we're out. We got to go. She's like, we got all this stuff this week. I go, I can't take it anymore. I just can't take it anymore. I'm out. That's it. Yeah, I got to call. I'll call Uncle. Yeah.
That's so cool that she got to go to Cleveland too and experience that, man. When did you guys meet?
We met in Minnesota in 1999. We started dating, and then we ended up, when I came to Chicago, it was one of the moments, we're both a little older. I wasn't a kid, and we're really getting along, and it's like, I'm signing in Chicago. And she goes, oh, I guess that's the end of that, or what are we going to do? And I go, well, I guess you come to Chicago. I go, you can come and hang out with my crazy friends and, go do that. And she said, I could do that. We could try that and see how it goes. And so now it's, we've been married 21 years, and she's into baseball life, and she has her own business. But yeah, it's been great. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I love that. Yeah. That's so cool. Oh man, we're going to wind it down here. I got a couple questions for you about the team this year. This was great stuff, man. Thank you for taking me through that. Cause that experience.
For all of us who grew up as Cubs, right?
Yeah, right.
You and your brother taking batting practice on Wrigley Field when you're kids, and we all wanted to be that team.
Yeah,
and we're all living and dying through it with the '80s teams, and then the 2003 and 7. You're like, someone's got to get this done, right? Yeah.
Our whole life, man. Our whole life, you almost kind of look like it's like not getting there and not winning, and that becomes part of the psychology in your brain on things that don't work out for you, and it's debilitating, right? And the amount of emotions that pour out from you on something like that. My wife and I, we were moving the next day to California, and we had no furniture in our place, in Arizona. And I was just like, oh my God, this actually happened.
Yeah, right.
And Andy Mazer called me out of the blue on WGN. And I remember I had to take his call, and I went out into this dark corner. It was so surreal. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Because you're feeling it, man. I was feeling my dad, and I'm feeling the emotions of like what it meant for like never seeing it, never getting there. Right. So anyway, I think it expanded a lot of people's mind to move forward.
To your point with your dad. Yeah. When I got home from the road from Cleveland, we flew in. I slept for a couple hours. I got up and I went to the cemetery and had a beer with my dad.
Oh God!
We had an old style. That's the thing, right? I mean, we had to scare it, right?
God! Wow! Yeah. Wow! So this team this year, I'm gonna bring up one name. Is it Alcon? How do you say his name? Alcantara?
Alcantara, yep.
Alcantara. Is he gonna make the team?
There's a chance. There's a bunch of young guys. This is a really veteran group. So you got to remember that. It's a very veteran group. Unlike the teams that they've had here for the last few years. So that's one thing. I would say he will be in the big leagues, but is he going to make the team out of spring? Very difficult. He's one of them tall, lean kids that can really run and do some things. So that's a question. But this is a good team.
Okay.
It's a good team. They have done some good things just earlier today. Watching Justin Turner interact as a 40-year-old veteran who really knows hitting and knows the game, that's going to be a big help for a lot of guys because you've got that guy that's done it. He's won World Series. He's been a star player. He's gone through the battles. And now he's helping some of our really good players. He might make them better.
Oh, yeah.
He might give them the old I see the light moment,
Yeah.
I've seen some of that. Tucker, he's a good player.
All right.
He can really play. So we've got good pitching. We've got a bullpen now that can hold its own, so you're not worried about that part. And I would be surprised if the Cubs don't win their division if they stay healthy. If they do that, then as we know, we've seen it through the years, who knows what happens if you get to the playoffs, right? So this is a good group.
Awesome to hear. Who plays second until Horner comes back?
I would say, depending on what happens, Birdie would probably be the guy for right now. If you have a third baseman, we still got a third base issue too with Shaw because he's banged up a little bit. He's the young kid, the first round pick from a few years ago that they're hoping gets back and really takes over that spot. He's getting closer to being able to be back on the field. So I'm a huge fan of Nico Horner.
Yeah.
He's a baseball guy. You would really like Nico Horner. If you see him every day, he's that grit and grind and play ball, and he's a baseball just grinder. I just love watching him play. Yeah. So we need him back in the line.
I felt the same way. And last year it seemed like he wasn't hitting the ball as solid, but then you find out he has an injury because I'm like, it just seems like if he just sticks to his game plan and just getting those hits, it just felt like
our game right now, Jeff, you can't fall. If you're a guy like him, you can't fall into the trap of trying to be someone you're not, right? Everybody's talking about this elevating the ball, the launch angles, and all this stuff. And he's a hitter. He hits.
Yeah, exactly.
He steps on the on-deck circle. He's looking to hit. He's not looking to walk. He's swinging. But he can use the other side of the diamond as well as anybody in the league. He's a great base runner. He does things really well. And he needs to be him, to your point. Just stay who you are, and you're going to have a long, really good big league career.
When's he coming back? In May? Is it?
I would say before that. He may even be back by opening day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, looking forward to the season. And you going to Japan?
I am not. Pat and I are going to do the broadcast from our booth in Wrigley, and then I am going to come right back here.
Now, you're going to be at Wrigley at 2 a.m. announcing that?
2 a.m. My thought was with these games, if we weren't going there, to have a viewing party at my restaurant, right?
Right.
I thought we just invite everybody, and it's mimosas and bloodies at Coop's Corner, and game time 5 a.m. and let's go. We're great. I don't think Mr. Hughes would have been all that keen on that.
Right. But you actually
so we're just going to do them at Wrigley. We'll do them at the booth at Wrigley and all.
You're going down to the booth at Wrigley. Unbelievable. So do we get to see on the tube, or it's all audio?
We'll be radio. Yep,
all right.
Radio.
Wow. Okay.
And then I'm going to flip back around on the Thursday. I think we do Tuesday, Wednesday games. Thursday, I'll be back here in Arizona because we got a broadcast on Friday, I think, is the next spring training broadcast.
Yeah, which is kind of strange. You're going back to spring training. So how do you figure a team how do they pick the team to go and play 2 real games? That's why you're there early this year? I mean,
yeah, I think, when you look at the league, the Chicago Cubs have 2 frontline players from Japan. The best player on the planet right now is with the Dodgers.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
They've got a couple guys, too, that are over there that are really good, that are from Japan. So it makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
I understand it.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, I'll be there that weekend of the 23rd and 24th, so I'll come and see you. I'm going to go to one of those games.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I'm going to come and see you. Coombs, can't wait to come to the Coombs Corner in Lockport. I can't wait to have an awesome meal there and see you but I'll see you in spring training. Thanks so much again for being on, pal. God,
you're the best. I couldn't think of a better way to start my day today. Talking to you, talking about your pops, and best of luck with the movie coming out. But you're the man. I
awesome.
just always
thank you, Ron.
Always have a great time when you and I are together.
Always, man.
Check out a collection of movies by Santo Films now streaming. This Old Cub, the critically acclaimed documentary about Ron Santo and his Hall of Fame career while battling type 1 diabetes, in a time when diabetes was unknown to most. It is available on Tubi, iTunes, and Amazon. Jake's Corner, a family drama starring Richard Tyson, Diane Ladd, and Danny Trejo. And Liar's Poker, a whodunit featuring Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Then there's Dead in 5 Heartbeats, an off-the-grid motorcycle club film with real motorcycle clubs produced by Sonny Barger Productions and Santo Films. All films were written, produced, and directed by Jeff Santo. Watch now on Tubi, iTunes, and Amazon.
Crackerjack.
This call is being recorded.
Tony Cahn, Jeff Santo, you are my crackerjack for the first episode of season 3. How you doing, pal?
Jeff, good to talk to you. How you doing?
What's going on, man?
Just excited to be moving into spring. Baseball is here.
Right, man? Oh, God. I got to tell you, we got a bit of spring training through the camp that you guys did at Northside Fantasy Baseball Camp, man. God, that was a bunch of fun. I got to tell you. You guys did a great job. It was Carl.
It was great to have you come out, and it was a success from every aspect as far as we could tell.
What does that mean? Is people a lot of people hurting right now? They calling you about take it.
I think we're about 3 weeks out, so most everybody that was hurting is probably just about over it. But all the response that we've gotten has been fantastic. It was great to see people back together again since the last camp, the last Randy Hundley camp in 2020. Yep. People were smiling. People were ready to play. People were new people that had never been to a camp before. Were super excited to be there. And so many people gave us rave reviews, from the people that had been to 30 camps to the people that this was their first camp. They really did have a good time.
Yeah, man. It was a ball. I got to tell you, I'm hurting still a little bit. I won't kid you, but it was worth it. We got the ring, right? And I got to say, you guys worked your butts off. And what's cool about it for me is obviously everyone getting back together. It's been a while. But just the way that you guys set it up, too, I really liked how, the coaches were in the clubhouse, and that's where the meeting was. And there were some new ball players there that we've never met before, and that was amazing. Guys like Sean Dunston and Mickey Morandini, and you go down the line, Miguel Montero. And just the revealing stories inside the clubhouse, what is said in the clubhouse stays in the clubhouse, right? And just those stories alone, man, and I've heard a lot of baseball stories in my day, and they were amazing.
It really was great. I mean, we had the staples that we love to have. We had Fergie Jenkins, we had Bob Dernier, we had Jody Davis and Lee Smith. They've been around for a long time. They tell great stories. But like you said, the infusion of some new ex-Cubs as coaches, Miguel Montero and Sean Dunston really added a new dimension to camp. Their stories were great. They're great storytellers. And I think what they were able to do was sort of reinvigorate everyone else who had been to camps previous. Everybody had a great time at those meetings. The stories were great, the laughs and the smiles on people's faces. When I first went to my first camp, those are the things that I wanted. I wanted to hear those stories that I could never hear anywhere else. And this did not disappoint. 100% fantastic stories.
No, it didn't, man. And guys like Ron Say, too, which, getting a chance to talk to him for me personally was something else because, he's from Seattle, where my dad was from. So he was 8 years behind my dad and really knew a lot about him and kind of was like, okay, I got to kind of forge that path like your father did. And the way he told me, when he came to the Cubs in '84, he's like, I want a number 10 to honor your dad because we're from the Seattle area. And I never knew that, right? And just the similarities with the two infields they had, like the Dodgers of their time and the '69 Cubs, similar. The guys played together for so long. But the seriousness of him, Tony, right? I mean, you see why he was such a great ball player.
Absolutely. Even spending time around him during the games, he's still focused on the games that are being played. He's coaching third base, but at one point I ended up in a game and I played third base, and just getting to have that dialogue with him while I'm playing third base, knowing that he was a third baseman, is just a great experience. And I'm sure everyone else that played third base with him coaching third got that experience as well. Yeah.
And how about that story when Dunston got up there and said, I got to bring Ron Say out here because he's part of this story. I mean, that was mind blowing, right? To just talk about gripping the baseball.
It absolutely is. And the thing that I really found out at this camp, and it happened by bringing in a few new ex-players, is how their paths all overlap over the years. So as some guys are at the end of their career, you've got new guys coming in, and they have those maybe 1 or 2 years where they play together. And the things that are handed down from the older generation to the newer generation is something you really don't get to see or experience just by watching a game or even being at the ballpark.
Yeah, no doubt. And just kind of like what information they get from those players that are close to leaving the game, right? That kind of makes a mark on them, because that really did, of just playing catch with Ron Say and the conversation they had about gripping the baseball was amazing, right? And to see like how Sean Dunston, was pissed off at first from a veteran, right? Telling me to do certain thing, but I got to the big leagues my own way, where someone's like, well, if you're going to stay here, you better know this part of it. And just that, right? To learn it and then to accept it, right? To accept the information and don't feel like, oh, he's just getting on you because you're a rookie. And for Dunston to then say, basically, it changed me. It helped me, and so there's a reason why that you might have seen me do a couple extra crow hops, now it's more meaningful to the fan, right? Those are the beautiful little windows that you get going to the camp like this that you would never get anywhere else.
That's right. You can only get this one place because you're very rarely going to see these generations of players together. So while one of them may tell a great story, now you're going to get it from both sides. You're going to get two different perspectives of the same story. And that's something that you can exactly only get in a place like this.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Now, let me ask you. So you guys were working your tails off. How did you feel, man, through that whole camp? What was it like for you and Carl?
We knew that we were doing a good thing from the beginning, but on Sunday, when we first opened up the camp and we were getting ready for our first meeting, we were kind of running around making sure everything was set up. And there was an area where campers and coaches were all meeting and watching the AFC Championship game in the hotel lobby. And just to look back at that and see the smiles and see the conversations and seeing everybody having a great time, that was sort of what set the tone for the rest of the week. Getting to see everybody back together, everybody that had been to a camp previously, they knew what they were in for the week. And then you can see the campers that had been there for many camps sort of bring in the rookies, because as a rookie, you don't know what to expect, but everyone gets brought in. And one of the other aspects that was great about this camp was bringing in the Warriors Sword Group. And the 6 players that they brought out really added an amazing dimension to what we already knew was going to be a great camp. To see those guys out there, know what they've gone through, know what their lives have been in the past, and just to see them come out and really enjoy themselves for 1 week and take their mind off what might otherwise be a difficult situation was really a great experience for us.
Yeah, it was for the guys too, that like the Wounded Warriors, to have a player on everyone's team. It really was. It was special for us, to get to know them and to see what they've gone through. I mean, the one on Ronnie's team who won the award, what was his name? That
Colton
lost
Carlson.
both of his legs. Colton. Oh my God, phenomenal, man. Got up there, it hit great. Lost both of his legs. So, it brings me back to my dad on a different level, but, just seeing the toughness and just his attitude that was so positive, it just goes through the whole camp. And that was a beautiful thing that you guys brought there, man. And I hope that continues.
I think it will. And I think we're going to, in speaking to them, we're going to increase some numbers, potentially bring some additional people out. When they became part of the group, I knew, and Carl knew, that the group that is these campers would take everyone in wholeheartedly. But to see it happen was really an amazing thing, and we knew everyone would take great care of them, and everyone really did, and it was just an amazing thing to watch. Everyone from myself and Carl, to all of the coaches and to all the other campers, just really appreciated the opportunity to be around them and to be part of what we were doing.
Yeah, man. And I want to say this about you and Carl, because I know how hard you worked, and I know what it takes, well, in a little bit of a way, to put something like that together. Anything that you're doing on your own, like making a film or whatnot, is so difficult, right? And you're taking over a legacy thing here with Randy, and you guys went through that the proper way. But I want people to know that you guys aren't getting rich doing this. I don't even think you're making a dime, tell you the truth, because there's so much work put into it. The amount of hours that you guys put in this to just make it happen is mind-blowing. And I know the difficulties of that, man. And I just want to commend you both, because you guys were great the way you handled everything. And I can't imagine, it's a difficult thing to transfer over from Randy, because we're part of that, right? Randy was the first to do this. And so I know that you guys were going back and forth on that, but I got to say, from everything that you did was 100% with integrity and character, and that was beautiful to see, man.
I appreciate that, and exactly, we all owe gratitude to Randy for making this such an integral part of our lives. I mean, since the early 80s, this has been something that people love to do. And so we want to continue that, and it will continue. We're already, we have our dates for next year.
Okay.
We're ready to go, and we're already after again, so we can make next year better than this year.
Great. Is it going to be in Tucson again? Do you guys have any new news on what's for next year?
Yeah, so for next year at the moment, we are still going to be in Tucson. The city treated us great. We'll be back at the Keno Sports Complex. We are continuing to make a few changes and tweak a few things, but everyone that we came into contact with in the city of Tucson was so appreciative of us being there, from the hotel to the tourism and sports organization there in Tucson. They were really interested and excited to be a part of what we were doing.
Great, man. And that complex was excellent. I mean, that's a professional complex for everyone that's listening. That was top notch too. It's where the Sox used to train, right? And the Rockies, I think.
Yeah, the Sox and the Diamondbacks before they moved into the Valley. The county now, they own that, and they really have done an excellent job, not just maintaining it, but continuing to upgrade it. that main stadium that we played in on Thursday, they just put that scoreboard in. I know they're holding some early rounds of the World Baseball Classic there. So they continue to really do a good job of improving the facilities that they have.
Right on, man. And a little bit about you, Tony. Where are you from? You're from the Italian neighborhood there near Elmwood Park, right? Melrose area. And tell us, how you and Carl got to do this real quick. And what made you, come to your first camp?
So I grew up in Melrose Park. When I was a kid, like most kids in the suburbs, baseball was everything. The Cubs for us was everything, and we took every opportunity that we could to watch them and to be down at Wrigley. And then fast forward, my first camp was in 2013, so I got there a little late to be there with your dad.
Right.
But that's where I met Carl. And strangely enough, Carl and I had never played together. We played on different teams. I went to my first camp with the idea that I was going to go to one camp, and that was going to be the end of my baseball career, hang up the glove and be done. I had such a great time. I met so many great people, including Carl, and I decided I would be back every year. And then fast forward to, 2020 was the last Hundley camp, and then COVID hit. And we were invited out to Florida, to Fort Myers, to play in a Red Sox camp. So Carl and I talked about it, and we put together a team, and we went down to a Red Sox fantasy camp in Fort Myers, and we won the camp. And so in 2024, we brought two teams down there. Carl and I organized one, and another friend of ours, Tom Adams, organized the second team. So we went down there again. We had a great time. And so that kind of gave us the framework to say, you know what, we can do this. We can make this camp happen. And we went to work on it. Carl had done a vast majority of the heavy lifting. I'm still working, but I'm retiring in July, so I can jump into this full time as well. And we're in this for the future. We want to continue to bring this experience that we have enjoyed for so long to other people. And we've seen that in the rookies that were here that came to their first camp, and then by the end of the week they had come back to us and said, "Hey, I'm here every year now, and I'm bringing friends with me." They want their friends and their family to experience what they had just experienced.
Great, man. Well, how do they sign up if they want to go right? Are you signing up people right now?
So where we're at right now is we're doing some updates on the website, so we're not exactly at this moment ready to go.
Okay.
But the website is, you can reach it at wavelandevents.com. There will be updates on the website so that very shortly people will be able to go in and sign up for 2026. You can also reach us, our Facebook page, Northside Baseball Fantasy Camp. If you'd like to look there, there'll be plenty of updates there, from photos from this past camp to information on how to register. And next year's camp will take place from January 25th of 2026 to February 1st of 2026.
Perfect, man. We'll tell your lovely wife, Christie, and myself say hello. All right.
Yes.
And I hope I see you soon, man. I don't know if I'll make it to Chicago this summer, but I'll see you next year for sure. All right, man.
Absolutely. Can't wait to have you and Ronnie back with us again.
Right on, man. Had a great time. It was a ball, man. Really did. All right, Tony. You take care, pal.
Thank you. You as well.
At santofilms.com, we offer a diverse range of products, including indie films, movie posters, books, music, and related merchandise. Check out our new This Old Cub apparel and podcast merchandise. Or delve into the pages of Ravens in the Rain, a twisty tale about a woman with a past and a man with no future. Or immerse yourself in the soundtrack from the original motion picture Jake's Corner, featuring 5 original songs by B.J. Thomas and the film score by award-winning songwriter Steve Dorff. Enjoy free shipping on all orders of $40 or more. Use the code PODCAST at checkout. Support small business. Visit www.santofilms.com. And while you're there, click the link for the Ron Santo official website. We've got a retro-inspired Ron Santo fan club shirt, Ron Santo Pizzeria shirts, and signature apparel. Go to www.santofilms.com.
Thanks for listening to our show. Special thanks to our cool crackerjacks, Scott Nelson, Jim McCauley, Debbie Foley, Sherry Matarisi, Terry O'Brien, Gary Tallman, Anne-Marie Pascule, Jim Mule-Slagle, and Mac McPhillamy.
This show is made possible because of them and all of our subscribers. If you want to support the show and be a cool crackerjack yourself, subscribe on our Patreon page, click the link below this episode, or go to the Patreon tab on our website, www.peanutspopcornandcrackerjacks.com.
And leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
And don't hesitate to write, give us suggestions, tell us how you're liking the show. Email jeff.ppcpodcast@gmail.com.
For my closing quote, believe you can, and you're halfway there. Theodore Roosevelt.
Toodaloo!